The Chargers make a confusing first-round pick in the NFL draft while the Rams do Ram things. USC's top basketball recruit is placed in a coma after a car crash, and Anthony Edwards has no idea how the hell the Lakers are limiting him. Good morning. I'm James, and this is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the Faithful Angelenos Morning Report. It is April 25th, 2025. By the time you see this clip, I'll be on a plane heading home, which is absolutely a blessing. But before we do that, let's start off by talking about something glorious like LA sports. And if you like being in the know about LA, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It lets you know when we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. By all means, comment. Now, before we go through the news and notes, quick look at the scoreboard. Clippers 117, Denver 83. Smack. Game 3 in the first round goes to the Clips, who now lead the best of 7 series 2-1. Kawhi Leonard scores 21, grabs 11 rebounds. Meanwhile, today, the Lakers are at Minnesota at 6:30. That'll be game 3 of their series, which is tied at 1 apiece. Pittsburgh's in town to play the Dodgers at 7 o'clock. The Kings are at Edmonton in game 3 of the first round of the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. The LA Kings lead the series 2-0, and Angel City travels to Orlando. That game starts at 5. And what do you say we get to the news? If you have to explain yourself on NFL draft night, chances are you done bleeped up. If you watched ESPN's coverage, for example, Mel Kiper spent hours upon hours explaining about how, no, he wasn't wrong about Shedeur Sanders not getting taken. No. Well, maybe you were, pal. Captain Hairdo might have whiffed on that one. Compared the man to Tom Brady, for Pete's sakes. But that's for another program, not this one. I bring up the idea of explaining because the Chargers will have to explain drafting running back Omarion Hampton of North Carolina. Now, it's not about Hampton's talent, although many people think that taking a running back in the first round is foolish in today's NFL. Hampton did lead the ACC in rushing twice. He's considered the second best back in the draft. Patience, power, speed. He's explosive. That's something that the Bolts absolutely lacked on offense last year. But you know as well as I do what the hell else they lacked, even more. A defensive tackle. Because run stuffer Poona Ford was signed by the Rams. Maybe depth at defensive end. After all, Khalil Mack is not getting any younger, and we don't necessarily know if Tuli Tuipulotu can handle the load. What about the interior offensive line, which got torn to shreds in that playoff loss to Houston? Receiver, tight end, many glaring needs on this Charger team. So they take the running back. Guess who was taken immediately after Hampton was selected? Texas receiver Matthew Golden. Next guy. Ohio State guard Donovan Jackson goes to the Vikings. Tennessee takes a defensive end and Tennessee defensive end James Pierce gets drafted by Atlanta. The Lions took a run-stuffing defensive tackle in Tyleik Williams. All 4 of those players I just mentioned, potential solutions to legitimate shortcomings on the Charger roster. So yeah, the Bolts have to explain this pick. Especially because they signed Najee Harris as a free agent at running back. So, here's their rationale. Harris is on a 1-year deal. And while Harris is consistent, he's not as much of a big play threat as Hampton is. Or maybe the Chargers come back and say, you know what, we just went with the best player available. So, maybe they don't have to explain as much as Mel Kiper does for his faceplant in predicting about how great Shedeur Sanders is. But the Bolts do have to defend this pick. And for that reason, I'm not sure I like it as much. I don't think it's likely to be a home run. Too many holes elsewhere. Of course, let me know what you think in the comments thread. Meanwhile, I'm not right about everything. But I told you guys for weeks, to ignore all the mock drafts, that the Rams were going to trade out of the first round. I've been telling you that on this program for weeks. Check the receipts. So the Rams sent the 26th overall pick and a third rounder to the Atlanta Falcons to slide back into the second round because LA had no picks there. But they also had a seventh rounder and get a first rounder in 2026. You trade a first rounder for a first rounder and a second rounder. That's not a trade, that's a jack. The first rounder makes this trade an absolute steal because you see, Les Snead calls late first round picks purgatory. May as well be in the second round if you're late in the first. Save some money when you make your pick, right? But not only do they do that to save money on the salary cap, they get a first rounder for next year. Now they have 2 picks on the first round for next year. In a year where the quarterback options to potentially find Matthew Stafford's successor are going to be better. Maybe you take those first round picks, both of them, and you trade up next year to get a sure thing quarterback. What if they don't? We know the Rams, for example, contacted Miami about a possible reunion with Jalen Ramsey. Is it possible that the Dolphins would take on more of Ramsey's salary in a trade if, say, the Rams sweeten the deal with a first-round pick? Even Sean McVay joked that the Rams had 2 first-round picks, quote, for now. So, if you read the mock drafts going into the Thursday's action, and you had watched 3 on ESPN for 3 hours wondering all the rumors, would the Rams trade up? Would the Rams take a cornerback? All I can tell you is that on this little clip, we've been telling you guys virtually every day for weeks that the Rams were going to trade down. Not right about everything, on target with that. Now, as for the LA colleges, no USC or UCLA football players were selected in the first round. We do believe that UCLA linebacker Carson Schlesinger has a solid possibility to get taken today. The following story, though, goes way beyond recruiting. This goes way beyond the state of the USC basketball program. 5-star guard recruit Elijah Arenas, the son of former NBA sharpshooter Gilbert Arenas, is in stable condition after he was hospitalized as a result of a vehicle crash in Reseda. Now, this is not a mere fender bender. Elijah Arenas was placed in an induced coma. Now, at about 5 a.m. Thursday, Arenas was in a Tesla Cybertruck that had crashed into a tree and a fire hydrant. It hasn't been officially confirmed that Arenas was the driver, but the LA Fire Department said the driver was a teenager that was transported to the hospital. The LA Times reports that drugs and alcohol were not a factor in a crash. Now, with the information at a minimum, we could only say so much about the kid. He's a young man, obviously 18, so I don't want to judge too hard, especially when we don't know what's going on. So then, unfortunately, we have to switch and talk about how this impacts USC basketball, which is a little cold. I acknowledge that. But it's still hard to say how devastating this is to the Trojans program either. ESPN reports, for example, that Arenas suffered no broken bones. All I can tell you is that he was the crown jewel of USC basketball's recruiting class, which is ranked 9th in the nation. As for pro basketball, we have spoken at length repeatedly about how the Lakers' unconventional approach to defense after trading away Anthony Davis has produced dividends. But here's where things get compelling in the playoff matchup against Minnesota. Anthony Edwards, mini scrotum's star player, the go-to guy, he can't explain what the hell the Lakers are doing to stop him. Matter of fact, he said he's still confused by it. Quote, "This was the first time I've seen this one. Every time I caught the ball up top, it was kind of like they was in a zone. Even when we cut guys through, they just stayed," unquote. Now, to be clear, Edwards hasn't been completely boxed in through the entire series. For example, game 1, he had 9 assists, 1 turnover. But in game 2, no assists, 2 turnovers. For their part, the Lakers affirmed that they made no strategic change. They knew Mini Scrotum wanted physical play. The Lakers simply matched it. So we'll see if that carries over into the third game. As we all know by now, for better or worse, you just don't have a ranking for high school recruiting for these college programs. There's also rankings now for how well you did in the transfer portal, which is bizarre. You know, rewarding people for the transfer portal haul kind of feels like rewarding the best shoppers at a Big Lots closure sale, but I digress. UCLA's portal haul is considered 12th best in the nation by 24/7 Sports. Now, the Bruins added 4 players, headlined by guard Donovan Dent, formerly of New Mexico. And you should be satisfied with that if you're a UCLA fan. Until you realize that the top class goes to Michigan, and the Wolverines class includes former UCLA center Ade Mara. So, mixed vibe. Are you near a graveyard? Do you hear whistling? That's Dodgers manager Dave Roberts while he talks about Blake Snell, who was supposed to come back from a sore shoulder after 2 weeks, but instead has been completely shut down. Roberts told the Scribes, quote, "I wouldn't say concerning, because part of the messaging from us to Blake is, it's about later on in the season, and if there's any type of discomfort, let's not try to fight through it. I say this a lot, given where we're at right now on the calendar. Not concerned at all. Even talking to Blake, wasn't concerned," unquote. And if you listen closely to the audio recording of that interview, Roberts is whistling from Bobby McFerrin's "Don't Worry, Be Happy." Little too much happy talk for my taste. And you might be saying, well, you know, that kind of sucks, but didn't the Dodgers pay $700 million for the ultimate weapon? A multi-MVP level hitter, all-star pitcher, all wrapped up in one dude. Well, yeah, they did. Shohei Ohtani will throw a bullpen sesh on Sunday. Quote, "I still don't know what the next step is beyond bullpens." This is according to Dave Roberts. "And I think once he starts facing hitters, then it'll start to become more pronounced. But right now, he's still in the mode of just throwing bullpens. He hasn't thrown sliders yet either," unquote. Kings top prospect Liam Greentree, a winger, has been promoted to AHL affiliate Ontario. Of course, the Reign are in the AHL playoffs, so this is not going to mean a lot of time to continue his development. And the Sparks, they have decided to take 3-time WNBA All-Star Danielle Robinson to take the place of Nikki Blue on the coaching staff. Would you let me know what you think in the comments thread? Talk to me about your thoughts about the LA teams on NFL draft in round 1. And for that matter, how does the crash of Elijah Arenas impact USC basketball? Until we know more about the player, of course. And if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We're talking LA sports every single day here. Thank you for watching. I'm James. and we'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Cortel Queso production. Take care.